Our first teller is Rob Ace Holmes. Rob is a published author, multifaceted poet. I don't really have this in my hand. Can I put this in my hand? Sorry. Okay. Multifaceted poet, spoken word artist, and musician, celebrated for his raw, soulful performances. A founding member of the cultural collective Tower of Babel, Ace merges faith with pop culture, acting both as an artist and a cultural storyteller, combining literary and musical dynamics with spiritual undertones. Hailing from Hampton, Virginia, Ace is a creative artist rooted in family, faith, and community, which is why he fits in right here with us, right? He uses his talents to empower listeners with reflection, hope, and inspiration. His poetry collections include It All Makes Sense and Love You to Pieces, both from 2017, and American Rage, Views from an Adult Civil Rights Child with Quentin B. Jackson from 2020. Let's all put our hands together and welcome Ace.
Good afternoon. How y'all doing? Appreciate the intro. Before I start, I got to give a special shout out to dear family friend, Miss Sheila Arnold. I appreciate you so. We appreciate you. And listen, I got 3 pieces that I'm gonna share with y'all. And this first piece is called Mother Africa. Dearly beloved, a moment of silence will not suffice His supreme excellence. One, look at my skin and it's known that I'm not supposed to fit in. Air like brothers and sisters who reign heavily from your queendom. Mother, you give me this beautiful black fist. Tense, one-dimensional, not subject to change, yet simultaneously representing both unity and strength. And while this is known to start wars, you taught me to do more. You taught me to unclench my fists in order to love all mankind, for both the hells below and heavens above. Mother Africa, derived from Mother Earth, we are eternally grateful for your worth. Peace and blessings, Mother Africa. And this next piece, it's a little lighter. It's called Every Time It Rains. Every time it rains, you come to mind, yearning to dance with you, hold you in your soaking hair. It's all worth it, just to see your pretty face light up. One moment, a single memory can remain so potent and vivid for a lifetime to come. You are the sweetest taboo. Another place such a spell on the smooth operator. Detonate your love bomb, that is, of course, for your permission. Never usually catch me slipping, carefully evading puddles. My admiration reigns loudly for you, not to be silenced, marginalized, or muzzled. So forget my shoes, they'll recover. Praying this feeling lasts until summer. Nothing compares to mid-July precipitation. And while most, including myself, plot and scheme on wild fantasies of penetration, I want to dig into you like a bowl of ice cream. Better yet, peanut butter. Caressing every single corner with my hands, even the pieces I cannot and will not ever understand. Overstand on these stand I testify. Should we dance in the rain, my true queen, only then we can fly. Every time it rains, you come to mind. And these days, it's not hard to figure out why. And I think y'all will get this last piece. It's become one of my favorite pieces kind of recently, and it's called Not You. Each time we cross paths, my nerves react incorrectly, constantly checking my rearview mirror seconds longer to ensure you're not in pursuit, quietly telling myself, this can never happen to you. To me, to you, yet when was this fact ever proven true? Highlighted by historical events, police brutality, murder in cold blood, another black life lost, it simply doesn't make sense. You see, I'm not from the streets, college educated, people have complimented me on what a fine young man I am, yet upon stepping foot outside, I'm merely a black boy with too much pride. Expected to continue to help Lady Liberty thrive, expected to remain silent and assume everything is all right. Wrong. Silence nor violence is the answer. We are living with the epidemic liking the cancer, interrupting our numerous trains of thought. I did not mention the lynching that occurred in Piedmont Park, Atlanta. You see, the answer lies in understanding. Having conversation with both friends and strangers alike. Disregarding such factors as age, race, social class, not important titles provide the so-called rivals in order to break through. Because every time we cross paths, Mr. Officer, Mrs. Officer, I just don't know what to do. I'm sitting there checking my rearview mirror seconds longer to ensure you're not in pursuit. because truth be told, this has happened to me, but to my family, my friends, my loved ones, this can't happen to you, not you. And once again, my name is Rob Ace Holmes. Definitely love the spoken word art form because it really is a part of storytelling. And I appreciate everyone for the platform and the support. Shout out to my cousin Q in the back. we actually did American Rage, which was mentioned in the intro. Well, that was a collaboration between us. And much love to y'all. Peace and blessings. Phoebus. Oh yeah. So July 30th, I'm actually co-hosting this event. It's called Summer Series Open Mic. It's it's July 30th, 7 to 9 p.m. at Art Central Gallery. So everybody's welcome to come. Appreciate y'all. Art Central Gallery is where? 118 East Mellon Street. I believe. If y'all know Phoebus, it's like right down the street from Fuller's. Like Fuller's is here. It's like right to the right side. Appreciate you.
Okay, so we are filling up, which is exciting. We're going to act like we're in church. Everybody scoot to the middle and leave the outside chairs open if need be. Can we do that? Or move your books or purses or something so that there's just enough room? Thank you. Okay, great. And if you arrived a little bit after we had started, please remember to silence your devices. Okay. So next we have John Marr. John was born in Portsmouth and raised in Norfolk, and he is a local who loves his stomping grounds. After getting his bachelor's and master's degrees in computer science from Old Dominion University, John began taking classes with Push Comedy. He was featured at WHRO's The Story Exchange at the American Theater this past spring. And what he said, not in this written, but to me was, and that's how I got roped into this. And we're very excited that he did. John also leads panel discussions and local conventions. A prolific speaker, he is now finding his voice on stage. Let's welcome John.
I think this is being broadcast on Facebook, so. There is a potential for that. All right. Well, I will use the microphone because normally I do not need one. All right. So, college, I got my master's degree in computer science, and I had the opportunity to have my first job. In this area, that's going to be defense contracting, most likely. So I began to work for a local defense contractor, and I'm setting up my cubicle. And when you set up your cubicle, you're putting up pictures of family, of loved ones. I have a little fountain that's like babbling that my boss is like, this makes me want to go to the bathroom. Every time that he walks by, he will mention that. It's like, then go. I have my little plant. But also, this is my first job, and it's in a kind of conservative environment, the defense contracting, military. And I have to question, do I put up the picture of the person I'm in love with, that I've been with for 4 or 5 years at this point? Can this prevent me from being promoted? Could this drive a conversation that I do not want to have with a client or a coworker? So I decide I am going to put up a picture. And it's one where it's a group photo of a bunch of friends at the zoo with my other half there as well. So keeping that a little bit there, but also not putting it out there. This was a time period that in the lunchroom, they have a TV and you can watch news, and supposedly you can switch it from Fox to CNN, but everyone's going to be upset. And during this time period was when the Supreme Court was taking up, well, can same-sex marriage be a thing? And my coworker goes, ugh, what next? Man marrying a dog? And even though I'm not quite open about myself in this environment, I decide that I'm going to have a little bit of a pushback. Can a dog sign a contract? Huh? Can a dog sign a contract? Like, well, no. Problem solved. Well, what about a man marrying a child? Can a child legally sign a contract? No. Problem solved, although we still need to address this in places. It's still a problem, but no, legally they cannot. So that's not a problem about gay marriage. Well, what about polygamy? Are all of them legal adults consenting age? Yes, then why do I care? It's like, at that point, you're worried about tax brackets, fine, but beyond that, I don't care. So I open up slowly amongst a certain set of my coworkers because I want to be myself. And I have my other half coming to lunches and corporate events. It's like, why is your college friend always here? It's like, But I tell one of my coworkers during a lunch, I'm going like, hey, by the way, I want to let you know that that friend is my other half for years, and I'm bi. He goes, you too? Like, yeah, bi-dar is not that strong. So, but we find, oh yeah, no, there's other people like me in this kind of environment. Well, I leave this job due to other reasons, but mainly to get paid more. And I decide at my next job, okay, I'm going to be open, but do I still want to put up a photo? Because still you have clients coming. You have people that bosses, executives may come, and maybe it'll be like, oh, he's one of them. Let's not promote John or what have you. But my office is a bit more liberal side and more welcoming, and I'm able to be myself. I'm able to be like, yeah, my other half's coming to the event. This is great. We have a time in the nation when tragedy occurs, and corporations are along the lines of, we need to do diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. And a committee is going to be formed within our company. And I decide I'm going to be a part of this. I want to have representation from my people in this. We have an initial icebreaker meeting. And in that icebreaker meeting, we are going to discuss and open up a little bit. And I will tell you, tears were shed and people were telling stories. We had one person who was talking about invisible disabilities. Things that, like when you see someone take the elevator when they could take the stairs, maybe instead of going like, why don't you take the stairs, mind your own business. Because they might be going through something that you don't know. And one of my coworkers, who I loved her, she was a wonderful woman. Her husband had worked in construction and his back was needing surgery. And when I heard that, I was over at Barnes & Noble's and I saw an adult coloring book and like the color pencils box on sale. And it's like, this would be great for him to be able to do while he's in bed. It's like flamingos and F-bombs. So I get that for him and they love it. I actually had a picture of it. It was the flamingo with the F-bomb on my refrigerator with a nice note from him saying he enjoyed coloring during his recovery. Well, she's telling a story about how a friend of hers has recently told her she had switched jobs and that she was wondering, whether or not to put up a picture of her partner in the office. And my coworker said that it was one of the saddest things for her to realize that she had this privilege. She had put up a picture of her fiance, of her husband, same person, in the office. And she didn't have to think about it. But for someone to have to think about whether or not to put up a picture of someone that they love up in that place that they're going to be at 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 52 weeks of the year, minus vacation, was a tragedy. To her, no one should have to feel that way of having to second guess whether to put up a picture of someone that they love. And at that moment, I felt at home because someone was able to see something that I had gone through in multiple jobs. Every time, do I share this? Do I put up this picture? I felt at home, I felt recognized because of that coworker just saying that. So when you think of diversity, equity, inclusion, it's not a limitation. It is broadening your horizons and opening you up to see what other people have gone through. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Okay, so next we have Sharan C. Taylor, also known as performing artist Queen Yakini. She's a published author, a poet, a spoken word artist, as well as the new host of Poetry, Prose, and Pizza Open Mic. Queen's work has been recognized by the Nat Turner Library in Southampton County, Virginia. Queen Yakini has performed at the Ziders American Dream Theater in Virginia Beach, the Sandler Center, and the Hampton Coliseum, just to name a few. Queen's poetry writings have empowered her to develop programs for Black American History Month, Black Music History, and Juneteenth history. To learn more about Queen Yakini or to schedule her, you can go to hookedonpoetry.com. Everybody, please give a warm welcome to Queen Yakini. Hold it.
No, I was saying, can you raise it?
Oh, maybe.
Here we go. Thank you so much. There's a mic here. You want this?
I don't know that it's energized.
Okay. How you doing, everybody? My name is Queen Yakini, and as she mentioned, I do a little bit of storytelling. Not quite like what maybe people are used to, but I tell my own versions. I write my own versions of maybe a little truth, a little history, and a little in between, and I put them all together, and I tell my story through poetry. And so this first poem I would like to do is actually about Hampton, Virginia. It's a place called Point Comfort. They're taking me to a place called Point Comfort. But if only I would have known what lay ahead, I would have gotten up earlier to pray and said everything that needed to be said. I would have kissed my wife tenderly. I would have made sure that my children and family had fled. I would have escaped this hideous trauma and fallen upon my righteous blade instead. I don't want to go to a place called Point Comfort. I want my soul to be purged, and I pray to my ancestors that death comes soon. You see, I wish to be liberated from this insanity that I'm being forced to consume. Please set me free from this place and let me fly away from this atrocious tomb. when I arrived in Point Comfort, I just couldn't believe my eyes. My heart was overwhelmed by grief when I realized what was planned. There were black bodies smothered with palm oil and tar while those with whips stood in command. Slowly, I made my way, with my shackles scraping through the sand, when I saw lustful men standing at the auction block, daring to bid on the value of an African man. The stench of their greed filled my nostrils as they waved money in their sweating hands. I fear now that when we leave this devil's pit called Point Comfort, I'll go to a place where brutality is no surprise. I fear there'll be no empathy for our suffering, nor will they bother to wonder how many of us have died. I sense they won't care about how they destroyed our sacred bonds or disregarded our family ties, and how they eradicated our languages and identities just to control every aspect of our lives. I guess the best any of us can do now is to find new ways for our people to survive. So we'll create signal songs, and we'll call them Negro spirituals to help our runaways stay alive. Now, there will also come a time when black people will become contrabands of war, and we'll fight for equal rights and liberties. And there'll be a place called Fort Monroe, where we'll go after years of captivity. Now, I can see a future of reconstruction in an era of KKK and Jim Crow, but this country won't be able to escape its perilous past, where the first seeds of racism were sown. Generations will always be haunted by this place called Point Comfort. Because if only we would have known what laid ahead, we would have gotten up earlier to pray and said everything that needed to be said. We would have kissed our wives tenderly. We would have made sure that our children and our family had fled. Maybe we could have escaped this hideous trauma and fallen upon our righteous blades instead. And that is, when I do my Black History program, that's something what I will offer to my audience. And they blessed me by coming back. I was like, I ain't scared too bad. They came back. All right. This next piece, it's a little lighter. It's about a sister called Arminta Ross. My name is Arminta Ross, and I was born a slave. But I believe that everyone has the right to freedom or the grave. They say I'm wanted, dead or alive, and to that I say, please make my day. Yeah, good luck with all of that, because I'm the one who got away. You see, I was born with a fighting spirit that made it impossible for me to stay, because God already told me I was unfit to be any man's slave. You see, what they did to black folks was immoral and improper. But like that old scripture says, no weapon formed against me shall prosper. So I took my freedom. I even changed my name. I called myself Harriet Tubman, and I was about to change the game. Because I had a whole lot of family who was still being kept in the South. So by any means necessary, I was going to make a way out. I knew God didn't create us to be slaves, so I became a soldier of the resistance. And when black folks were too scared to run, I became even more persistent. Yeah, I love my folks, but I wasn't going to let nobody jeopardize our mission. I said, if you even thinking about going back, somebody going to come up missing. Now, no matter what you hear or see, don't stop. Keep on running. Keep going if you want to taste the freedom, because those slave catchers are coming. That's why the slave catchers was looking for me, because they knew I wasn't no joke. Believe me, they knew that Harriet Tubman wasn't afraid to bring that smoke. See, I was manifesting the seed that had already been planted in my mind, and I was only 5 foot tall, but with a pistol, I was 6'9". So what, they put a price on my head and said I was wanted dead or alive. I guess you could say I was a gangster, way ahead of my time. I freed my people and my family, but I wish I could have done much more. You see, it's hard to free an enslaved mind that ain't never tasted freedom before. You see, I did what I could for my people, and I died at the age of 92. Because I kept on doing the Lord's work till there was nothing left for me to do. And on my very last day, when I could see the ancestors coming through, I looked around at my family and said, I'm going to prepare a place for you. Peace. Thank you so much. And those 2 poems are in that book on the table. Thank y'all. Much appreciated. It's not easy to stand here and tell those stories, but I do be feeling like somebody got to do it. And if somehow it came into my being, then it's now my responsibility. And I tell you, sometimes I can't sleep because I got to get it out. It comes to me in my dreams. I wake up and write it out. And so, you know, it's not meant to be towards anyone. It's meant to pay homage to the ancestors, what they went through. We cannot forget it. It was nothing light about it, nothing. And I don't understand people who don't get that. But as we can see today, we sit here, history is now repeating itself. And so if you think history is not important, then I don't know what eyes, where you looking at. I'm trying to see what you're missing. So I said, you know, I feel even more obligated now to speak than ever before. And so I appreciate you for respecting what I had to say. Now, also I wanted to mention that the 2 poems that I just recited are in my latest book, Telling Our Blues with Black American Poetry. I have 5 books altogether. So Woke, A Poetic Journey was my first book. The Dream and the Lie is my second book, which I wrote during the Black Lives Matter movement. Tracing Black Music to the Roots. I was part of a history of the banjo production, and that's how that book came to conception. I also have a naughty book, because I was once a young woman. And I had done some things, and I said, you know, I'm going to educate these women out here about what needs to be going on. So that was that. And then I came to, you know what, that book sells without me saying a word sometimes. I'll be like, oh, I got woke and this and that. No, give me that one in the back. I see it. I'm going home and read this to my wife and all that kind of stuff. I don't need to know why you buying it, but thank you, you know, child. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Queen. No, I meant the microphone had feedback, so I just, and there's a step stool. I'm good. And there's a step stool. Thank you. Okay. All right, so next we have Dennis Bailey. Dennis first met Sheila at a storytelling conference she was hosting at a local church, and they were both attending at that time. They became fast friends. Dennis continued to attend the public forum storytelling workshops that Sheila offered over the years and put this knowledge together with the public speaking training gained during his life. Believe it or not, Dennis grew up with a really bad stutter, and you won't believe it when you hear him talk. He previously avoided talking at all costs, especially in public. It was his past training and Sheila's kind and confident and caring coaching that finally led him to a breakthrough. He has a love for humor and comedy and a knack for explaining life's precious moments in an amusing, special, and insightful way. Can we all please welcome Dennis to the stage?
When I was growing up, I had a best friend in the whole entire world. We were like this. His name was Ronaldo. But because we were best friends, I was the only person who ever got to call him Ronnie. Ronnie and I were on our favorite place in the whole world, doing our favorite thing. We were on the playground, swinging on the swings, back and forth, until I looked across the playground, the other side of the street, on the sidewalk, and saw this little blonde-haired girl walking across. The more I looked at her, my palms started to sweat, my throat was choking, my heart was beating out of my chest. My head was getting numb. And Ronnie must have been talking to me, because when I came back to reality, I heard him say, "What do you think? What do you think? What do you think?" I said, I think I'm in love." "With who?" Ronnie said. "With her." Ronnie saw who I was pointing to. He looked and said, "Oh, yeah, she's pretty." And then he looked again and said, "Ooh, you better be careful. You don't know who her daddy is." I said, "That can't matter but too much. I got to find out more about her. Ronnie, I'm going to have to leave now. I think I have me a new best friend." So I walked the rest of, fortunately my house was real close. It was just down the rest of the block and around the corner. I went home and then went into my bedroom, sat down at my desk and said, okay, I have to come up with some way of finding out more about this one girl. So let me start. I got nothing. That was hard work. Why don't I turn the TV on for a break? So I turned the TV on, and of course the first thing that's going to come on is a commercial. And the longer that I listen to it, it's a commercial for our local drugstore. And it said, "Buy your Valentine's Day candy now, 1 pound, 2 pound, 5 pound box. Get them while they're hot." I thought, that's what I can do. I can buy those Valentine's Day candy for a little blonde-haired girl. But how do I give them to her? I got so excited thinking about it, I stood up real quick and knocked my school books off on the floor. And then I was staring at them. And then it came to me. I'll give her the 1-pound box if I can carry her books. I'll give her the 2-pound box if I can hold her hand. I'll give her the 5-pound box if I get to kiss her. That was even more work. Time to go to bed. So I went to bed, and then I got up the next morning and did what I needed to do, and chores around the house, and I did a couple errands on the way, and then off to the drugstore. On the way to the drugstore, I said, gee, I sure am glad I skipped school today to have time to get all this done. Then I go into the drugstore. I start looking around for those chocolate candies. Can't find them, getting frustrated. And then the man behind the counter says to me, is there something I can help you find? I said, yes. I'm looking for those Valentine's Day chocolate candies that was on the TV commercial last night. And the man perked up and said, oh, you mean those over there? And then I looked to where the man was pointing, and there they were. So he went and got them for me and brought them over to the counter, and I told him, I need you to wrap them up real pretty, because they're for my girlfriend. And the man must have been extra chatty that day, because he asked me to tell him more about her. I said, well, I don't know a whole lot. I know she's about my age and height and real pretty, has long, pretty blonde hair. I'm in love with her, and I want to kiss her. So he finished wrapping everything up. Just in time, I left the drugstore, and school was letting out. I was close enough to the little blonde-haired girl to holler at her to say, don't trip in that crater hole that's in the sidewalk there that you're not seeing. But as soon as I looked at her, throat started closing up, fingers got all tingly. So I just had to stand there and watch her fall in the hole. But being the protector man that I was, I ran over to make sure she was okay, and she was. So I picked up her books, and I carried them for her. And then I remembered, oh yeah, right. That's when I gave her the 1-pound box. And she says, oh, thank you. I like chocolate. Then I knew that we were going to have to cross the street to get to her house. So as we were coming up to the intersection, we got to the curb, the end of the curb, and I stuck my hand out. That's all I did. And waiting for her to put her hand in mine. And she did. And then me being the big protector and safeguarder, I escorted her and me across the street onto the other side. And then we walked down the rest of that curb, and we were on the sidewalk in front of her house. There we were in front of her house, on the sidewalk, holding hands, staring at each other. And then I said, well, at least I can escort you up to your house on your front porch. And she said, oh, I'd like that. And then I escorted her up to her front porch under the porch light. And then out of nowhere she goes, and then the first thing I think is, oh, has she got an illness? Then I remembered Daddy saying, no, that's just how some girls look when they want you to kiss them. So I puckered up, leaned in, and kissed her. All those same feelings from the playground came back. then she said, "It's about supper time at my house. You want to come in?" I said, "Sure." Then that's when I gave her the 5-pound box. And she said, "Oh, I like this one the best. It's the biggest." And then she brought me into her house, introduced me to everybody, and I sat down at the table right next to her. And then her mother said, "In just a minute, my husband is going to come out of the kitchen with the pot roast." No sooner did she finish talking, and then out of the kitchen came her husband, pot roast, tray, and everything else. I looked up at him, he and I locked eyes, and then I looked right away. And then the little blonde-haired girl said, "Stop looking down and look up with everybody." And I said, "I can't. It's your dad. It's your dad. Your dad's here." And she said, "Yeah, I know. He lives here." And I said, "Remember when I told you that I bought those chocolates from the drugstore?" "Yeah." See, I just didn't know that our drugstore is the one that your dad owns. Everything for the supper went fine. And then I went back home. It was several days before I saw the little blonde-haired girl again. And I said, "Well, I'm going to have to go out and investigate." So I walked down the street, and before I made that last corner before the drugstore, it was quiet. Nobody was out. I made the turn. Nobody there, nobody there, nobody anywhere. I must have been standing in front of the store when I looked up, and there was a big old red sign in the front door that said, "For sale." I had to stand there and think about it for a minute. I said, "Oh, well, that's enough of that." Then I walked the rest of the way down the street and around the other corner to Ronnie's house. I went up to Ronnie's house, knocked on the door, and he answered. And I said, "Hey, Ronnie, want to be best friends again?" He said, "Sure." Then meet me at the playground. I'll race you. We both got to the playground at the same time. We sat down on the swings, started swinging like old times, and then I remembered, gee, now this is true love. And it was many years before I met the little blonde-haired girl again. But she's here. And she's now what you call my wife. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Karen Bailey.
You're so silly.
Yes.
Is anybody else having as much fun as I am? Like, this is so fun. This is awesome. And I'm glad that you found the little blonde-haired girl again. Okay. So next up, we have Eric Johnson. Now, Eric was born in St. Louis, Missouri, but raised in East St. Louis, Illinois, if you know what that means, and in Compton, California, in the 50s and 60s. Graduating from Hampton High School in 1966. He went on to become Surfman number 122. And for those of you who may not know what that is, I had to Google it. Surfman, before the modern Coast Guard, the United States Life-Saving Service, USLSS, was responsible for rescuing mariners in distress, particularly those near the coast. These individuals carried out the dangerous work of operating lifeboats and performing rescues in treacherous surf and weather conditions. The number 122 refers to surfmen who served in the 122nd year of USLSS's existence, which began in 1871. I know, right? After receiving his associate's degree from Columbia College, Eric served as a logistics manager for New York City Outboard Bound Center. He served 14 years with the Department of Defense Police, retiring in 2014 as a lieutenant. Eric has experience working the Challenge Ropes course for Virginia Beach Public Schools and hosting at the Adventure Park at the Virginia Aquarium. And if his voice sounds familiar, it may be that you've heard him on alternating Saturdays at 1 p.m. on WHRO, where he's a volunteer reader of the new journal and guide for the blind and vision impaired. Let's welcome Eric to the stage.
Well, she just told the whole story, so I don't have to say anything at all. Is that microphone, Aaron? Okay, thank you very much. They heard me. I understand. Okay. Like she said, I was born in St. Louis, Missouri, and I lived in East St. Louis until I was first and second grade, third grade. Yes. It's easier. So I like to oh my goodness. Every day is a lesson. No, I understand. I understand totally. I understand totally. Is that better? That better? Wow. So, like I was saying, I thought I was saying. Anyway, yeah, first and second grade, I lived in East St. Louis, and I went to a Catholic school. Believe it or not, the nun and the priest at the Catholic school were the only white person that I'd ever seen. So that was back in the 50s. Somewhere along the line, my mom decided that we needed to move. So we went to St. Louis, got on a train, and went across the United States, and we ended up in Compton, California. Now, Compton was a big difference from being in East St. Louis. The difference was that East St. Louis, 66% in East St. Louis was white. But granted, I'd never seen anyone white other than, like I said, the ones in the Catholic school. When they got to Compton, it was 88% white. And guess what? They lived all around us. That wasn't bad, because growing up in the area that I lived in, Compton, it was like being in Heinz 57 as far as kids are concerned. Every nationality that you could think of would come out as we were out in the middle of the streets. I learned how to say buonasera, which is Italian for good evening. I learned how to say, does it come, oh, wow, I can't think of it now. I can't think of it, I'll get back to it. But I learned how to say good morning, good afternoon to all the people that were there, and you didn't worry about it because you were making each other seen And it wasn't something that you had to go try to do because everybody was right there in front of your face. There was an Italian family that lived next to me. There was a Jewish family that lived next to me on this side. There was a Spanish family that lived here. And there were actually another Italian family around where all the guys in the family became priests. So you can imagine out on the street, there'd be all the noise that you could see, you could hear, but now you don't hear out in the streets because everybody's sitting down there doing something like this. And then for us, the closest thing we got to doing this was playing on pinball machines. And you'd be banging that thing, and balls would be flying all kinds of ways, and the lights and everything would be shining. But you'd have your friends around you telling you, go for this and go for that. With us playing in the middle of the streets, we would play every game that you could think of. Football, baseball, basketball. And then we played cops and robbers. There was a cowboy show that was on, and I got what looked like a 30-30 rifle that had a big handle on the bottom of it, and I could snap it like that. That was him, the rifleman, yes. That was him, the rifleman. But the thing about then with us playing in the streets, we could walk around and there'd be bang, 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 bang all over the place, but the cops wouldn't show up because they knew that you could see that piece of tape that was coming out of the top of your gun. You had caps. And you were just outside having a good time. Well, the street that I grew up on in Compton, in the front of the house, all of the yards were open. So you'd be running up somebody's lawn here, and you'd be running up somebody's lawn there, and you'd be running inside of their garage across the front of their house, and nobody really cared. But we had one lady. We had one lady that had a 4-foot fence, wooden fence around her front yard, and she had a wooden gate that you had to go through. And we'll call her Mrs. B. So you could be playing basketball, playing whatever, and me trying to get in and play with everybody else because I was 6 foot whatever and couldn't play anything. So I tried. So we'd be playing football, or we'd be playing soccer, we'd be playing basketball, and I'd kick the ball. It was supposed to be kicking with my toe, but actually the ball would go off the side of my foot, so it would go in Miss B's yard. And we'd have to go back and beg and beg and beg and beg to get the ball back. And Mrs. B usually said no. Every once in a while, you could get one of the parents to go over and help. They'd go over and they'd talk to her for a little bit, and then they would guarantee that we would stay off of her yard, and we would make sure that the balls and stuff didn't went in her backyard. And another thing is that the temperatures that you have now, sometimes during Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, we'd have the same temperatures, so we'd be outside having a blast. Well, along with that time of the year, right around Christmas, we got gifts, like everybody else does. Everybody does. I got a thing called an erector set. Anybody remember those? And along with the erector set, I tried to build stuff, and they eventually took it away from me because I was messing up things. But my brother got he got a microscope with chemicals. He got a microscope with chemicals. And he was the nerd in the family. Literally, things would come up on the back of a comic book, and he'd go out and try it and then come up with the way that they were supposed to be doing. That's where he saw the chemical set with the microphone. So this particular day, we were out trying to be part of the group, and I kicked the ball over there, and we went over and we begged Mrs. Brown. We begged her, and she wouldn't give it back to us. Well, later on that evening, she called the police. Because in that medical set. I mean, in that kick, in that kit was the making of dynamite. So he got the sulfur and charcoal, and potassium. Mix them all together and you have gunpowder. Around our house, the first 3 houses on the block, and Mrs. B's. Miss B had the fence in the front. She also had a 6-foot fence behind her house made out of cedar. And on the top of each of those was a 2-inch red brick that went all the way around. She said that that night she looked out her back door and she saw this flame just flying across the top of her, and it just went psss. And at the end of it, there was a poof, there was an explosion. And then this little sign right down there by that explosion said, "Give us our balls back." Thank you.
I was hoping for another one, Mr. Johnson. It was only meant for him. Okay, thank you. So our last teller for the showcase is Amy Johnson, not related to Eric Johnson, just the same last name. Amy was born and raised in New York City, and she moved to Atlanta, Georgia in the 80s. It was there that she met Kumba Storytellers in Georgia in 2007. At the time, she was considering retiring, but decided maybe storytelling was a good way for her to get involved with children in the community, as it fit nicely with her other community work that she was doing. Amy wanted to encourage children to learn more about African American history and culture, and to find joy in education, especially in reading. Amy first began telling mostly African American folk tales, and then she moved into writing African American historical profiles. Because stories transcend borders, she soon decided to tell stories from many other cultures, stories that reflect the oneness of humanity across the many cultures that they come from. And that is why her storytelling is referred to as Amy's Wonderful World of Stories. Let's welcome Amy to the stage.
Good afternoon. So nice to be here. Such great storytellers and poets. I'm sorry? Closer? I keep hearing that sound and I don't know where it's coming from. Okay. Can you hear me? Oh, it was the beginning of the dry season. The crops had been harvested and stored. It was a time of leisure. Tonight, I will tell my first official story. If I am successful, I will hereafter be known as a griot, an African tribal storyteller. It's one of the greatest honors my people can give to me. It's not new to my family. My great-grandmother, Mama Bobo, is one of the greatest storytellers in the land. She has trained me well. She has trained me well. I'm sorry. I have traveled with her the length and the width of the kingdom. I have heard her tell to chiefs and obas, to medicine men. I know most of her stories. I practice often on my friends and family. Oh, now the sun is dipping in the western horizon. Dancing colors flood the mud huts and the mango and palm trees. People gather beneath the outstretched limbs of the old acacia tree. It is a tree that is more ancient than our tribe. It is sacred ground. Only very special festivals and meetings are held here. There is a hum of conversation as people gather. There are neighbors and friends are greeting one another. They are talking of the dry season, how long will it last? And what will the women sell at market until the rains come again? It is a very special time. The elders and chiefs from other villages are seated across from men and women on straw mats, and then the children fill out the circle. Ah, finally, here comes our chief. He comes in and he takes his stool. Then gong, gong, gong. His messenger gives the signal. He rises and he says, "Let us begin." He sits again. I go to the center of the circle. Oh my God, I am so nervous. Oh, expectations are so high. I mean, after all, Mama Bobo is my great-grandmother. There can be no excuses. Ever since I could talk, I've been groomed to inherit this great honor. I must do well. And so I turn to the elders and the chief. I bow in the customary gesture of respect. The chief waves his cowtail switch, responding to my gesture. I am still so nervous. I think to myself, this is my night. This is my night. Mother has often told me one day I will be as good as Mama Bobo. I look out, I scan the crowd. There's Mama Bobo. She flashes that beautiful, famous smile of hers. She's sitting right next to Papa and a few feet from Grandmother. Oh, Mama Bobo nods her head at me twice. That is the signal. Be yourself. Become the story. And so I begin. My mothers, my fathers, it is said that the child that has his father's blessings shall dance with the feet of the gods. Oh, there's a hush over the crowd. They have never heard anything like that. That is such an original beginning for an official story. They are quiet. I look to the elders and I say, I am standing on sacred ground. May I have your blessings? The chief waves his cowtail. The elders nod their heads and murmur. Mama Bobo nods her head. and the crowd roars. The roar of the crowd just sends energy through my body. This is my night. This is my night. And so I begin. Long, long ago, and far away in the bush, there was a village. Oh gosh, my mouth is so dry. I use my tongue to wet my lips. Oh, there was a village where all the animals of the land lived. And then, as I have seen Mama Bobo do so many times, I become each animal. I roar like a lion, and I growl like the leopards, and I wow like the hyena hunting in the light of the moon. As I tell our history, the crowd becomes so engrossed. I have everyone's attention. Everyone is quiet. There is not a sound. Their attention is all on me until I come to the end, where I do the traditional ending. Again, I bow and I say, my mothers, my fathers, I have landed. If my story be true, let my words soar, roar like a lion. The crowd roars. Oh, the roar is deafening. The chief steps forward and places his cowtail switch in my outstretched hands. I have succeeded. I have succeeded Mama Bobo as the griot of the land. Oh, my training will last for many more years, but for now, I have found success. Thank you. Oh, gosh. Thank you so much. Well, you've heard mention of the cowtail switch, and some of you are wondering, what is this thing? Well, here's what this thing is. Once upon a time, in a West African village, a small West African village, there was a hunter named Ogalusa. Now, Ogalusa's youngest son had been born, 2 or 3 weeks before the day that he decided to go out hunting alone. Nightfall came, and Ogalusa did not return. His family wondered why. What could have happened to him? Why had he not returned? And that went on for some time. As they were doing their chores, raising their crops, managing the cattle, they wondered what could have happened to him. Neighbors and friends asked, what happened? Where is Ogalusa? They asked for a while, but after a while, they stopped asking. After a while, the family stopped wondering. Until the youngest child began to talk. And then he said, "Where is my father?" The older son said, "Well, we don't really know. He went out hunting one day." And another son said, "Perhaps we should go and look for him." Another said, "Well, we don't know which way he went. How would we start to find him?" Yet another said, "I saw the trail that he took. If you'll follow me, I'll lead you down the trail." And so they started out. Finally, in a clearing, they found the bones and rusted weapons of their father. Well, now you have to use your imagination a little bit. These children, each son had a special gift. And so one son said, "I can put his bones together. I can definitely put the skeleton back together." And he did. And another son said, "I can put muscle and flesh on the bones." And he did. Yet another son said, well, I can put blood into his body. And he did. Now there was yet another son who said, I can breathe. I can breathe into him. And he did. And Okaloosa took a deep breath. A fifth son said, I can give him movement, show him how to move. And with that, Okaloosa stood up and he stretched his muscles and his bones. The last son said, I can give him back the sense of smell and hearing and sight and the power of speech. With that, Okaloosa said, let's go home. Well, when they got back to the village, the wife was so happy and excited, she immediately began preparation of a feast. She killed the cow. They killed the cow, not she alone. They killed the cow. And all of the village was invited to a feast on the third day of his return. Okaloosa held on to the tail of the cow, and he began to make a switch. He decorated the switch with lovely fabric, with cowrie shells, and with leather. The festival was wonderful. Everyone had more than enough to eat. They all enjoyed themselves tremendously. But at the end of the festival, Okaloosa called for quiet. And he said, I want to give this cowtail switch to the child who is most responsible for me being alive today. Such excitement. Each brother knew why his part was the most important part in his being alive, right? But Okaloosa said, I want to give this cowtail switch to my youngest son, for it is he who remembered me. And it is said that as long as a man is not forgotten, he cannot die. Thank you.